Back in 2019, CMU committed to the Sustainable Development Goals by saying that we would incorporate it into our education, our research, and our operations. But we didn't say what that actually meant in practice. So it's my job to figure out what it is that we should be doing to make the world more sustainable for all by educating our students, staff, and faculty about these goals, identifying researchers who have shared interests in the goals, and incorporating what we've learned into our operations. How many of you have seen the Sustainable Development Goals at all anywhere? You've seen the icon. There's actually, I saw Covestro has a little spinny sign thing that shows how they are working on the different goals. So for those of you who aren't familiar, who maybe don't know as much about them, they are 17 goals that all countries agreed to achieve by the year 2030. They came together after about 3 years of consultation with millions of people around the world on what they thought would be critical to include in a global framework on sustainability. The 17 goals range from issues that address social topics, economic topics, and environmental topics, and they center equity in each of the goals, in addition to having a couple of goals that focus specifically on inequalities. A lot of people see these goals and think it's just no poverty, no hunger, good health and well-being. There's actually 169 targets and 231 indicators that underlie all of these goals that actually inform our analysis of how courses, researchers, and operations are relevant. So the way that the goals are discussed at the UN and by countries are through a process called a voluntary national review, where countries report on their progress across the goals. I used to oversee New York City's program at the Mayor's Office of International Affairs. I came up with the idea of cities reporting on their goals. I termed it a voluntary local review so that cities could be part of this global process. And now there are about 220 voluntary local reviews around the world that look at the Sustainable Development Goals at the city level. In the US, I did a couple in New York City, Pittsburgh has done a couple, Orlando did one, Los Angeles did one, and the state of Hawaii actually just did their second one. Back in 2020, Carnegie Mellon University became the first university in the world to conduct a voluntary review of our contributions to the Sustainable Development Goals, looking at education, research, and practices. And I mentioned that our provost made this commitment without an explicit outline of exactly what it was we were meant to do. And so when I came to the topic of research, I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea where to begin. Like, how can I classify all of our institutions' research? How do I even get it together? What on earth? I literally didn't know where to begin. And it's very overwhelming with these 17 goals, 169 targets and 231 indicators, to match that together with the hundreds of researchers at CMU's campus in Pittsburgh and around the world. Then I learned about elements. I started working with Jason. He helped me understand what the various capabilities were. He'll go into it in more detail of the various tools within Elements are, and that there was a way for us to bring together all of this information to respond to the stated needs of our community, which were to find researchers across the goals that they could either learn from, collaborate with, or potentially apply for funding projects. So over to you, Jason.
Yeah, so thanks to all of Alex's good work. CMU was a very early adopter in using Elements to track how the different goals related to the work that was being done by the researchers across the university. We initially implemented a custom tagging scheme within Elements, but then have since migrated over to what is now the tagging scheme that is native to Elements. And we've made a lot of efforts to help faculty to tag both their profiles and even in some cases their publications, and how that work aligns with the different SDGs. And so we present that information in multiple ways. First, we're able to present it through Scholars at CMU, which is the branded version of the Discovery module for CMU. Let's see. So you can see in our Scholars website that you can click on the different facets to search through based on the different goals as they've been labeled within the elements profiles. But in addition to this, our analysis and data visualization team has built a Tableau dashboard, and this is an exported workbook of that dashboard where you can search across the different colleges as well as the different departments and even down to the researcher level to show how the different research efforts across the university align with the different development goals. And so it's a very good sort of exploratory tool, and we're working with Alex in her office to incorporate this data into the different publications and websites associated with her office.
So I think with any dashboard, I hope you ask the question that I always like to ask, which is, so what? You have all this information, you pulled it together, how can you actually use it for something that is actionable, that people are interested in learning about? And that's where the Sustainability Initiative comes in. I mentioned that we are physically based in libraries. We have a studio. This is an event that we had with students who are interested in goals related to the environment. We often have people come to us who are interested in a specific topic that is addressed in one part of the university. I'm not sure if you're all university representatives or what you're back. So we have 7 colleges and we have a bunch of different campuses, and it's really hard to figure out for a student in particular and also for potential researchers where they may have a potential partner who's working on something that's relevant to them but isn't in their department or isn't easily searchable by the different websites that we have. So we've been using this tool as a way to help students, faculty, and staff identify potential partners. I teach a course on the Sustainable Development Goals called Local Advocacy for Global Change, where students learn about issues in Pittsburgh and identify professors or faculty across campus that can help inform their research to develop global policy strategies on the topics they're interested in. We haven't gotten to this place yet, but we're looking into seeing how this can help department heads and other decision makers think through what sort of faculty they might be looking for when they're looking at an analysis of what the strengths and weaknesses are in their different departments. And we only had 15 minutes, so we kept, oh, that was the last slide. So I think that there should be time for questions. Okay, yeah. So we kept it short and sweet in case you all have questions. Or if you don't have questions, are you working on the Sustainable Development Goals, and do you have anything that you'd like to share that we could learn from?
Thank you very much. This is really great. Yeah, we are working on sustainable development goals in a variety of ways, maybe not quite yet as coherently across all areas, but we would like to. And we're doing something similar to this, but in some multi-part ways. And I've been talking to them about using elements for this, so this is a really excellent example. So. But I was just wondering, oh wow, now my question's kind of totally gone out of my head.
Which
'cause I was
institution are
thinking
you
about
from?
your other
Or where are you
question.
working on it?
Virginia Tech.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was just wondering, like how you, no, I'm sorry, it's completely gone out of my head. I'll follow up with you
Okay,
later.
we're here.
I'm curious how the faculty have responded to this. Has this been something that's resonated really strongly for them, or have you had a bit of a tough sell to convince them to engage?
Why don't you talk about the overall, and then, yeah.
Yeah, so what we've attempted to do is really to incorporate the labeling practices with the Sustainable Development Goals into our overall kind of adoption strategy. So we work very closely with the liaison librarians who liaise with the different colleges, and we have developed different adoption strategies for each college. And in the process of talking to them individually about the different ways that would encourage them to adopt, we make sure to bring Alex into the conversation during those conversations. So it's really part of a larger strategy. And so any resistance that we've seen has been more of a holistic resistance and not specifically related to the SDGs. I don't know if you had.
Yeah, I mean, also just a lot of people are rightfully skeptical of the Sustainable Development Goals in general, so there's that challenge as well. So it's important for us to address those concerns. I just realized now that I have you here, there's a request that many of our faculty have had, which is if there could be just a little button that people could click to explain what the goals are. Because I think, sometimes they show up as just 3, 17, and there's no information. So for someone who's not familiar, Symplectic colleagues, maybe you can add a little button in the next version. But yeah, I think that the only challenge is just that there are people who don't know what the goals are or don't necessarily see the value in them.
Thank you. So you all showed you can, you're reporting on these goals in different ways, I really appreciate the local to global connection you're making, and when you showed reporting on, what did you call it, a voluntary reporting, mm-hmm. It showed some goals as completed. I kind of, it can't mean that they've solved poverty in a given area, or if they have, that's amazing, but what does that mean is kind of what I'm wondering. And does that mean, also, do you report SDGs in other ways in your institution? And is that helpful? Is this all like working together?
Yes, I don't know. We definitely didn't say they're completed, so I need to double check and see. Oh. Oh.
Is it just like they completed the perhaps initial step?
Oh, the second, the VNR slide? Here, I'll just switch.
The map. It was like.
Oh, it just means that they conducted. They conducted the review. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what. Yeah, that means that those cities, and this is way out of date. This only has like 30 cities, and like I said, there's 220 now. But yeah, this fits into our overarching sustainability initiative, which also looks at courses, how they're related to the goals, operations, how they're related to the goals, and then this informs our programming that takes place both within the sustainability studio and across campus. We also advised a student advised the city of Pittsburgh on their voluntary local review, and we're using these goals regionally to work with partners in southwestern Pennsylvania to talk about a shared narrative around sustainability. And just 2 weeks ago, I brought 4 students to the UN General Assembly to talk about their work.
You said there were goals to accomplish by 2030, and you said there were 169 goals. Are those goals like SMART in any way, like specific, measurable, attainable, or is it just like we want to solve world hunger by 2030?
Yeah, there's 17 goals and 169 targets, 13 of them repeat, and then 231 indicators. So the target level, because the goals range from things like no poverty to climate action, they're all measured in different ways. The one that I think is most important is peace building, and that's really hard to quantify, and that's a collective challenge that the world is facing. They came up with some basic indicators like number of people killed, number of people alive, but that's not really reflective of the more nuanced issues that we're facing. So I don't want to give you a lecture on the Sustainable Development Goals right now, but one of the reasons that I came up with the idea for New York City and others to report on these goals is because cities are the ones who are actually implementing the work and can share a lot about how they measure progress and incorporate questions of equity and equality into the way they respond to sustainability challenges. I'm happy to talk to you about that more after, but I don't want to derail the conference with it. Thank you. Yeah, I think that.
Thank you for your presentation. How did you marry the goals of sustainability with the goals of your Elements platform? So was the Elements platform there first, or were the sustainability goals there first? And how did you leverage your goals to so that the system could be bring value?
Yeah, so I believe that Elements predates the Sustainability Initiative at CMU specifically. And it just seemed like a natural marriage since we were already, doing outreach to campus. And, Elements seemed like it could be a useful platform in order to engage with faculty. And so it just came about naturally. I don't know if that's your...
Yeah, like I mentioned, that I was looking for a way to figure out how to deal with all this big information, and I certainly didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so I was so happy to meet Jason and learn about Elements. It was a huge, huge relief. Still remains a challenge, but at least we're working together on it.
Yeah, and really the overarching goal is for Elements to facilitate a way to capture and quantify and measure all of the kind of activities of faculty and researchers across campus, and so it just seemed like it was natural to incorporate the sustainability as well.
Yeah, I want to tell one funny anecdote, which is that we've been trying to get, I don't know, but I think it's funny. We've been trying to get faculty to use Elements for a while, even before I worked on it. Finally, Jason got, the computer science team to work on it. I met with them and talked a little bit more about the Sustainable Development Goals, and they were very dismissive and rude because computer scientists think they're smarter than everyone else. And she said, why would I even use that? I can just go to Elements, look it up, and enter the search terms. And I was like, well, I think we kind of won, because she just told me that she's going to go use Elements for whatever it is that she needs, even if she doesn't use the goals. But yeah, so, yeah. Thank you.